Friends, neighbors, I'm Darrell Watson. I'm honored to serve you as your city council member representing all of the fine District 9. You know what this is. This is Barbershop Talks, March 2025. DJ Squirrel, hit me with my walk-in music. Yeah! Come on now. You know we always have a good time here at the House of Hair at 28th and Fairfax. Marcus Polk, tell us a little bit about where we at.
What's up, everybody? We're in the heart of Park Hill, the heart of Northeast Denver, located at the House of Hair, 5023 East 28th Avenue. Y'all come check us out. See us Tuesday through Saturday. We are live and in the community.
How you feeling, Miss Sam, as you eating that chicken?
I'm feeling pretty good. Nice and nourished.
I got to ask. Losing my voice, got to ask my brother Darius, where's that chicken from?
We get our chicken from the Blazing Chicken Shack 2 off of 33rd and Holly.
Thank you, Darius. DJ Squirrel, how you feeling?
Man, I am glad to be feeling better to be at Barbershop Talks this month.
Oh, come on, you're bringing the music. Do y'all love this music?
Hey, man.
All right.
Got a lot of good stuff happening today.
I got to tell y'all, there's a lot of feeling in community. There's a lot that's happening, federal government, nationally, that really is making our people feel down, feel low. I got to tell you, these barbershop talks, my hope and the hope of the folks who come and speak and engage here is to make sure we can speak on issues that elevates our community, that celebrates who we are. And we do this outside of Black History Month, because every month is Black History Month in this community. One of the things we wanted to touch on this month is a discussion about financial literacy and increasing Black wealth. We have an amazing panel here tonight to kind of provide a little bit of input, a little bit of their history, their experience, their skill to talk to community around how to build wealth, how to become financially literate, and what are the steps they took in their lives to elevate not just themselves, their families, but the communities that surround them. I want to be clear though, I had a 30-year career in finance, and I am certain as a former person who provided input to folks on financial matters, we got to put forward a disclaimer. So let me put a disclaimer before we start, and then we're going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves and give a little bit of background as to who they are. So no one on this panel, including me, is authorized to provide you, my friends viewing this on our YouTube channel or from our newsletter, or folks here in the audience, none of us are authorized to provide you direct financial advice. We can provide you feedback, we can elevate the discussion around financial topics, but you are not our clients and we're not your advisors. That is our disclaimer. So I don't want to hear anyone say, well, Councilman Watson told me this, he told me to do that and I did it. So we're not providing advice, we're giving you input and elevating a dialogue on financial literacy, which I believe is something that we need to do more within our community. So with that, why don't we turn it over to our panelists. Prince, I'll have you introduce yourself. Malcolm, introduce yourself. Provide the folks a little bit of a background as to who you are and how do you intersect, engage in financial literacy.
My name is Prince Dykes, retired Navy vet here. I'm also the president and founder of the Global Children Financial Literacy Foundation and the president and chief investment officer of Royal Financial Investment Group and a local children's book author as well.
Man, you're busy.
A little bit.
All right, Malcolm, a little bit of your background.
Sure, I'm Malcolm Evans. My day job is a commercial banker. I'm the managing director for Wintrust Bank here in Denver, Colorado. So I manage a team of 4 bankers, including myself. The night job is chair of the Colorado Black Chamber of Commerce. I've been chair of the chamber now for 6 years and been on the board for 12, 13 years now counting. So, you know, depending on the question, I may have my chamber hat on, I may have my banker hat on.
All right, audience, give a round of applause to Prince and Malcolm. Welcome to Barbershop Talks, Fine District 9 March edition. thank you both for being here. I'm going to read some of these questions. I want to make sure I'm being precise in what I'm asking of you. And anyone in the audience at any time, if you want to interject, just got to say your name, provide some feedback and input. Know that these brothers are here to lead a discussion, but I'd love to hear your input and thoughts if you have thoughts to add to the discussion. If you, Prince, were providing what I'm referring to as the State of the Black State address, specifically as it pertains to building black wealth and black financial literacy. First, how would you grade the state of the black state as far as financial literacy and building wealth? What would be the grade that you would give? A passing, failing, treading water? And then share any solutions that you believe that are important for community members to hear as far as what folks can do to increase and improve the state of black business.
Sound like about 5 questions in there. Well,
Do it, man.
if I had to grade it, I will, from my lens, I would say we're about at a C. I know a lot of people say, hey, we're failing, people don't know this, people don't know that. It's being in the financial literacy space from, over a decade now, watching it. I've never seen the conversations like this had before. When I started out 10 years ago, there wasn't even one YouTube channel that was talking about financial literacy. When I published my first book 10 years ago, Wesley Learns to Invest, I didn't even see any children's books about teaching kids about investing at that time, especially that looked like us. So now you fast forward a decade now, I'm seeing the conversation shift. You're seeing now talk about putting it in schools. We're doing this, we're doing that. Now we live in the richest country in America, in the world, being America, and now you're seeing the conversation start over the last strong 5 years of this word financial literacy becoming trendy, financial education. So on social media, watching so many people come into the space, watching so many cartoons, watching they have the opportunities to go into schools. 10 years ago, when I was like, hey, we need to teach this in schools, people were like, oh, what are you talking about? We don't know. We're kind of looking at what subject would that be? And now to see, I've seen the demand increase with coming to things like this, coming into schools. I'm selling more books than I ever sold now than I did a decade ago because the industry, and you're seeing more people become aware of it. And everything starts with the conversation. So now, anybody that's listening today, the first people I will start with is children. People are like, why don't you start with children? Because if you want to change the future, you start with the kids. And kids have the longer time horizon. Us as adults right now, going on, that segues into the economy. You're seeing layoffs happen here, left and right. Federal government is slashing all type of programs. The consumer sentiment that just came out, I want to say last month, telling us how people feel about consuming things, it's at an all-time low. Because people are now, I'm not going to buy that new car if I don't know if I'm going to have a job. I'm not looking to buy that house because if I don't know if this government program is going to be cut, this is going to be cut, things like that. So adults are tightening their wallets. But we know every kid that's being born, that's in kindergarten, that's getting ready to go to kindergarten, they have a 15-year time horizon. They got 10 years, they got 5 years. You can put money to the side for them. That little $50 that you don't think is nothing now, that $50 a day, a month, a week for every birthday, Christmas, whatever, grandparent, grandmother, aunt, that start talking to them now and start investing for them now, they have a longer time horizon. So the adults, we're always pitch repair. We're going to fix you up. We're going to fix your credit. We're going to fix your credit so you can get that house. Fix the credit so you can get that business loan. You got to ask yourself this question: if somebody's always fixing on your car, Darrell, you're going to ask yourself, hey, well, why is my car always being repaired? And if you tell the mechanic, well, I never put oil in my car, I never put gas in my car, they're going to look at you and say, how in the world did you get to this point? So by teaching kids, you are now teaching kids at the youngest age, hey, look, you can start building credit for a kid. You can start investing for a kid. You can get insurance for a child. As you know, Darrell, been in the insurance, been in the business, I've been insurance for 30 years. If you get insurance on a child, it's a whole lot cheaper than getting on a 40-year-old man.
That's right.
So, hey, we can start doing those things now, but it first starts with the conversation. You got to first know it's there. You have gray spaces, things that you know that are out there that you don't know, but you also have black spaces of things that you don't know that you don't even know.
Yeah.
So now that these black spaces, I feel like they're becoming great spaces to where people are talking about it, and then now people, okay, now I'm started investing for themselves, investing for the children, having a conversation for the children, and even all the way down to buying land for the children.
All right.
So-
You know, we're going to dig in a little deeper as to what you do specifically in a follow-up question, but appreciate your feedback. And Malcolm, I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on the state of the black state as it pertains to financial literacy, as it pertains to building wealth? And you can wear whichever of the 15 hats that you normally have on a regular basis. You can wear any of those hats in answering those questions.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I would concur with my fellow panelists and friends. I think that you know, we're probably in that middle ground, right? I mean, we definitely aren't where we were during my mom and grandparents' day, right? You know, my mom was born in 1939, and so, you know, completing high school, she went on to get her nursing degree. But back then, you could, if a female, you know, you could just be, especially black, you had two choices. You could be, that it was professional, teacher or nurse, right? And if you were white, you could teacher, nurse, and maybe secretary, right? And so I think we've certainly broadened the professions that, you know, people of color can choose today, right? And so I think that with that being said, I'd grade it a C. I think, you know, we seem like we've lost some ground with some of the younger generation. I grew up in Northeast Louisiana, so I got my parents, my grandparents, like, hey boy, you got to be twice as good as the next person, right? To be, you know, and the generation, my daughter is 29 now, and so she got some of that from me, but some of her generation just like, hey, I'm just cool. I can just go out here and do what the next person is doing that may be more privileged because of, you know, their race or their culture or their economic background. So I think we lost a little bit of that. You got to work harder. You got to have more drive. And so that's why I would, you know, put it at a C level as you did. But I think it's critical that when we think about building wealth, that we think about, this is something that my chamber position has thrown this idea from just having conversations with my board members that the anti-DEI, you know, push that we're seeing now across the country.
And let's call the name out. Don't say DEI. What is it?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
For sure. What we're seeing in that is that, you know, it's causing us to have to, I think, rely on each other more than we have in the last, I call it, a couple decades, since the 60s, I think, right? So one of the things that we're going to have conversations at the chamber around is how do we get more black businesses to support each other, right? That's critically important because we may lose some support from those federal contracts that, you know, are being, you know, whitewashed by the current administration. We may lose the ability to, you know, get SBA certifications and, you know.
Small Business Association.
Exactly.
You know, I'm going to come at you on those acronyms.
You know it, man.
Yeah.
So that's critical that we,
Yeah.
you know, we start doing business with, you know, people that look like us, that support us, you know, that have common interests in place. So you think about a black business like yours, right? So Barbershop, right? So we can go to Walmart, get our hair cut. We can come to a black business and get our hair cut. Being a banker, right? So you know, as you get, you know, more cuts, more sales or whatever, it's like, okay, well, this week I made, you know, 20% more than I made last week. Well, that 20% is going into your pocket versus, and it's getting circulated around the black community versus it being dispersed at, you know, another barbershop that doesn't have our interest in mind. We're gonna have that conversation with restaurants, we're gonna have that conversation with plumbers, we're gonna have the conversation with a lot of black businesses and a lot of black people that are doing business outside of the community. The dollar gets, it gets, you know, assimilated outside of our community. We need it.
We're diluting our black wealth, black power, if we're not supporting black businesses.
correct.
So I think that is important. I'm curious from Marcus, Sam, and folks from House of Hair, what are your thoughts on building wealth and being small business owners and being entrepreneurs yourself, if I was to ask about how would you grade per se or rate the state of black wealth from your perspective, small business owners, entrepreneurs, what would be your grade, and then kind of what is a solution from your perspective as a small business owner that you would want to elevate?
Oh, okay. The owner himself would speak first. I mean, I could agree with the C, maybe C minus, as far as seeing the black wealth. I don't know the statistics or the numbers, but I think just even as a community, and we're talking about DEI, and we're talking about some of the things that have recently happened, I think even before that was implemented, I feel like we've needed to fall back on each other, like you said, since the 60s, the 50s, and the 60s. I think we have not, I feel like we've lost sight of what that looked like. Let's talk about segregation. Let's talk about how we used to already lean on each other. And some of the things that were implemented based off of our ancestors and where they came from with slavery. So I feel like if we get that mindset back and not just base it off of not shopping at Target or not shopping at H&M or Starbucks, like more so of how do we support our black communities, like Blazing Chicken Shack, and you know, sometimes we'll go to these restaurants or we'll go to these places and we'll say, hey, I don't like that they did this, and we'll go to McDonald's or we'll go to Popeyes or we'll go to these big corporations. Like if we're really upset, we won't stick through and just say, hey, I'll give them another shot, or let me find another black business, right? So I guess what I'm saying is I think it's all mentality on how to get that going to support our black businesses. Don't wait for the orange man in office,
Come on now.
you know, to do these things. Don't wait for our counterparts, whether if it's state, federal, government, whatever. Like, we cannot wait. We don't have room to wait. That's where I sit, especially as someone who is learning. You know, I have a product line. I am an entrepreneur now, and gaining that insight and still learning, right? But just learning now, like, okay, my products are for everybody, but I definitely cater to my people. You know, I cater to black people, and everybody could use it. But I want to make sure that my community gets supported. I want to make sure their hair is nourished, their skin is nourished, and also let them know, like, hey, you know, we're here, right? Anybody can come in this barbershop and generate, or we can generate, you know, more popularity. This shop has been around over 40 years. You know what I mean? So just saying that, like, that in itself speaks volumes, right? And even that mantle being passed to Marcus, man, it's phenomenal because I've been here now 10 years, right? So just saying that, like, I feel like community-wise, even with this demographic and the area changing, I feel like I'm evidence of seeing black wealth. Even though I'm not where I feel like I should be yet, I'm well on my way. But it also stays with connecting to the community and also having the mindset to not fall to the wayside and be like, oh, let me just hook up with a certain group of black people, but not everybody, or let me hook up with a certain group of people that aren't my people and leave it at that. No, let's bring everybody to the table. I tell Marcus all the time, we have so many people that come through here. Judges, lawyers, teachers, councilmen, you know what I mean? Entrepreneurs, plumbers, electricians, and there is no reason why we should not be thriving. Denver should be the next Black Wall Street. I feel like we could. We can defy the odds. They say that it's not a lot of black people here. We have well enough people to make and shake, you know, the demographic. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I definitely see how I can be a product of the wealth, but as a whole, in totality, nationwide, I feel like it's definitely a C minus. Because it's mentality more than anything.
I hear you, sister, and I gotta say, I mean, that's part of the point when it comes to financial, I think, literacy, building community wealth. It is mindset as well. I mean, we have to unlearn things that we've learned generationally, the things our parents learned, grandparents learned, the things that we teach from the ways we act. And so I elevate, yes. If folks want to protest and say, I'm not going to shop here, there, wherever, that's good. That's not sustainable if we're looking at how do we rise people up. Because if you're not with the alternative, saying, I'm not only going to say I ain't going to shop here because I'm mad at this person because whomever they are, 47 is what I refer to the person as, because they did something. we have to then proactively say going forward, Monday to Friday, Saturday and Sunday, if we have a choice, where do we go to spend our bucks? Whether it's $1, $50, or $1,000, where do we go?
And I wanted to piggyback really quick and then I'm done.
No,
But
no,
he
no.
mentioned insurance. And I love how he talked about the children and how, not just with the insurance with the children, but how you sow into the children to offset what we may have lacked, right? But you
Right.
mentioned insurance, and as an adult, I wish I would have learned about insurance policies, even as an adult. But I love how you started off with that. But there are insurance policies that we can actually benefit from while we're alive.
Yes.
I wish I knew that a long time ago,
Yes.
right? I wish I knew about IULs and things like
Yes.
that with actually having access. Like I'm now finally getting some extra insight on that. Marcus
Uh-oh.
has mentioned it. And I love that because I actually
Put
do
that
wanna-
book up so we can see it on camera.
Yes, honey. I'm gonna talk to you too. I need some information because I teach the children at my church. So I think this would be amazing for me to connect with you on. If you have a card or anything, I would love to get that. But educating our children. But I did want to piggyback off of that because I think that's amazing how you mentioned not only teaching the kids.
That's yours.
Oh, well, thank you. That is good. Thank you.
Prince, why don't you, my next question is going to be for you to give a little bit of your background, your why, kind of what you're doing, and these amazing books that you've written. Talk a little bit about that, and let folks know about your history, your background, and why are you elevating, really, a voice of children to be a part of the solution?
Well, it all started when I was a little baby boy. And
Going way back. We got lots of chicken here. We'll just sit down, eat, and listen.
no, I'm originally from a small town of Waynesboro, Georgia.
All right.
The youngest of four, and I left for the military. I got recruited for the military in my junior year of high school. So that led on me doing a 20-year career, and retired right here. Last stop was in Denver, Colorado, at Buckley Space Force Base out in Aurora.
Man, thank you for your service, brother.
Man.
Thank you. And then did 20 years active duty. But on my active duty tour, my first stop was I was a logistics specialist on submarines. So when I got into that field, they said, hey, if you want to go to school, you can go to school for inventory control, business, things like that. Went on to school for business, got my associates, my bachelor's, my MBA. But along that formal educational path, things I started to discover spots of, capital, stock market, insurance, credit, real estate, this, that, or whatever, banking, financing, how these things work. And it started to intrigue me, man, why wasn't I taught this as a child? So I started implementing it as myself, started to say, hey, let me get into investing, learn about my 401k. The military was given to me, myself. So I have a son. My wife and I, we have a son who just turned 14 years old. His name is Wesley. When he was 3 years old, he used to bring home little books and things like that. And I felt they wasn't important to me. I said, man, this is about the cat jumped over the head of the dog books. So I wrote the first book, Wesley Learns to Invest, self-published it back in 2015. So in 2013, 2014, I looked around for publishers. I said, the heck with this, I ain't got time to be trying to knock down doors, so I did it myself. Put out the first book, Wesley Learns to Invest. When the deployment got back, it had a great, surprising reception to it. So I don't know if y'all remember the cookie legend, Wally Famous Amos. Famous Amos cookies.
Yeah.
So the story about him and I was, I took my first book to Shark Tank. I was a finalist.
You took your book to Shark Tank.
Yes. So I was a finalist for Shark Tank season 7. Didn't make the final cut, but that's where I met Famous Amos, Wally Amos.
Okay.
Wally Amos appeared on the show twice. So he said, hey, I love what you're doing. I never got past 12th grade in high school. And so, I was making millions of dollars back in the 70s. I had no idea about the stuff. You could change lives with this. I want to help you launch your second book. So he helped me launch my second book in Hawaii, which was Wesley Learns About Credit, teaching kids about credit, how parents can start. All the storylines are real, but I wanted to show, hey, how you can do these things. But at that same time, I was a financial specialist in the military. Went off and got all my licenses, and about a Series 65, 63, life, health, accident. Went to the College of Financial Planning, all that good stuff like that. And I started to have service members that I was serving with would come to me and say, hey, well, can you show me what to do with my money? Can you help me with my money or whatever? That's what got me into money management. You know, I met one of my buddies was from elementary school.
Yeah.
And we were in Hawaii together, so I started managing his $500 is what he had at the time. And so I was doing that, writing the children's book, and somebody said, hey, you should create a foundation so people could come in and support you to do more. So created the foundation, Global Children Financial Literacy Foundation. And then I said, you know what, I want to make this tangible. I don't want to just talk people to death, I want to make it tangible. So, you know what, we're going to give out stocks. We're going to turn kids in the first time.
You're going to give out what?
Stocks to kids.
Stocks to children.
To children. So we started off giving out like Coca-Cola, Apple, Disney to kids. But then we since got away from that because I said, hey, you know what? I don't want to be the guy that's going around here giving out Blockbuster. Blockbuster was a great company 20 years ago. I don't know what Apple is going to be in 20 years. I don't know what Disney's going to be in 20 years. 20 years ago, Netflix was unheard of.
Correct.
30 years ago, Facebook was unheard of, right? So I don't know what that next wave will be. So we shifted from that to giving away the S&P 500. S&P 500.
Explain that, yeah.
The S&P 500 is a combination of the top 500 companies in America.
Yeah.
Meaning that as time went on, Blockbuster will fall off.
Somebody else comes on.
Netflix comes in.
Yeah.
Time goes on, this company falls off. You know how that works, right?
Yeah.
So I said, well, this is a better way if I was to get it. And I got there from, I would go to Omaha, Nebraska to listen to Warren Buffett every year. So by listening to Warren Buffett every year, I would fly out. I called his office one day and said, hey, I would like to come to your, left a voicemail and some miraculous reason they responded back to. I didn't even have a phone number for them to call me back. I say, this is my email, if this is possible. They emailed me, and we started emailing each other. They allowed me to come in there for the first time in 2017 and to do media coverage. So this is the first time of seeing Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, all these different people. And I was picking up on what he was saying, all the things I read in books, but I was picking up and watching him.
Berkshire Hathaway's big event every year?
Annual shareholders.
Okay.
So I would go there.
I'm scared of you.
So I had never been to Nebraska. I had never been to a shareholders meeting. Didn't know what any of that stuff was. I was living in Hawaii at the time. So I just took a whim and just flew to Omaha, went to Nebraska, went to the shareholders meeting, and haven't been going ever since. That eventually led to probably about 2 years later of actually sitting down with Mr. Buffett himself. You know, them inviting me up to his office and really loving when I had done the book series. In that time, I got stationed in Denver, Colorado. That's where I met NFL Hall of Famer Darrell Davis. He really liked the first two books, and he said, hey, I want to help you promote this on the third book. So he partnered with me, and you know, Famous Amos hosted my second book launch. And he passed away about 8 months ago. So, but as you spoke about it, how you said it, who were the original investors in the Famous Amos?
I don't know.
His original investors were Marvin Gaye, Supremes, the soul singers of the 60s and 70s gave him his first $25,000 to start what we know as the Famous Amos Cookies today. So that was the oxygen to even birth, you know, to be able to even get the money. He got to know them because he was an agent. Before he got into the cookie business.
How do folks get in touch with you? What's your website? What's your contact stuff that you want to share specifically for your books and even to learn more? Because I know Sam spoke about 500, which I think is amazing that you're even thinking about that and doing that for children. I didn't buy my first bit of stock until I was, I think, 23. And so share a little bit of how folks can get a hold of you, and you'll say it again at the end, but
my ultimate goal, our ultimate goal is for every kid when they walk into kindergarten to have the S&P 500. So America should be investing to his own children. So we wait until you turn 18 and everybody will give you a scholarship. So what about these kindergartners? We know they're going to have a house. We know the average house in Denver is at what, 500,000 right now? On that pace, what would a house be in 20 years? Right? And what are these kids going to be doing? But we know in order for the housing market to go up, the stock market has to go up, right? So, but we know this is going to happen. But we have kids right now that we just let them just fumble through life, and when they turn, let them figure it out, whatever.
How do folks hit you? How do you get a hold of you?
My info, info @gclf.org.
Okay.
And for our book series, all our book proceeds is what funds our foundation. So you can go onto our website, gcflf.org, and get the whole book series, hardcover, paperback, ebooks. But a few more out there on the other platforms like Amazon. But we retain more of the revenue that people buy directly from us.
From you. Yeah. And we have an event coming up. When is that, Sheriff?
April 2nd.
April.
Speak up now.
It's going to be April 2nd at 3 p.m. We'll be giving away 500 books and 5 stocks to the children. $500 a piece, if I'm not mistaken. So,
and where is it going to be at?
Blair Caldwell African American Library Research Center. So that's where we'll be having that April 2nd from 3 p.m. until we give all the books away. So,
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, we'll share more of that information. We are co-sponsoring this event with Councilwoman Flor Alvidares for City Council District 7. So, Malcolm, wanted to ask you the same question. Give us a little bit of kind of what motivated you to be in the role that you're in. You shared a little bit about your mom, shared a little bit about your growing up, but talk a little bit about your progression, because being in banking as well, then a lot of people look like us. At least when I started, and I think we may have started on the same time.
Right.
Yeah, so share a little bit about your story.
Well, yeah, so I grew up in a little small town in northeast Louisiana called Oak Ridge. Really was just a village. It wasn't a town, really, because it was only like 250, 300 people in that village, right? So it's an area known as Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. So 30-mile radius, you can be in any state. But really, it was kind of more agricultural, forestry, oil and gas. So I looked around, I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do down here, right? I mean, the best job down there was a paper mill, right? I mean, so it's like, I don't need a degree for that. So I decided I wanted to be in business. I decided that as a junior in high school, I went to the library before we had Google and, laptops, and just started researching, different careers paths. So it's like, I landed on finance and commercial banking, right? And so that was the decision I made. It's like, okay, well, that's, important for me to be able to, I want to be in the business space. I want to be, away from northeast Louisiana. So that was my first kind of foray into, okay, this is what I want to major in college. So I went on to Northeast Louisiana University, got my undergrad degree there, graduated in 1989, worked as a teller in college for a little while. And again, as you said, 87 when I started launched my career as a teller, had a 3.3 GPA, was qualified for the management program, but they were like, wait a minute. It's something you don't have.
I resemble that remark, I know.
Yeah, and so, I wasn't able to get into the management program with the particular bank I was working for. I worked for them for 2 years. So I was like, okay, it's time for me I was in Monroe, Louisiana then, so it's time for me to move a little further north. So I moved to Little Rock, and I was able to get a assistant branch manager job in Little Rock, and kind of started to move up through commercial banking. But each path was like, I saw less and less people of color, right? And so I realized, it was really critically important that people that look like me have someone representing them that looks like, them, right? And so I moved to Denver in 2002. Was in Birmingham, Alabama at the time, but at this point, color seemed to be a little less important. When I really, like I said, worked hard, or really, like I wanted to be always in the top 20% of whatever I did, right? So I just put forth that additional work, spent time, just honing my craft, and so moved to Denver in 2002. And again realized, not a lot of us around here, right? And at the end of the day, I said, well, what can we do as a black community to kind of gel more, right? So I joined the Black Chamber and just realized, where do you see black people? Church, and and the Black Chamber at that time had a big gala, and so wow, 500 people at the gala. 500 people at church. And so that's kind of where I kind of, started to hone my skill in working with the community, realizing that, hey, some black business owners here, and when I get a loan request, back then and still today, get a loan request from, one of my, black clients, present that to, the credit, committee, they look and say, well, this black business has been in business for 20 years. Why don't they have a balance sheet a little light, they don't realize that, we help each other.
Right.
We've been, some of that money's gone out. So when I give the story to the credit committee, okay, well, we understand that. But if it wasn't me representing that business, guess what? It would have probably been like, nope. And I saw that, definitely during the pandemic when the PPP loans were being, divvied out. And that first round went just like that, right?
Correct.
So a lot of black businesses, they walked into Wells Fargo, they walked into Chase, hey, you want to apply for a PPP loan. It's like, okay, well, you fill out this paperwork, fill out that paperwork, and by the time they, got done filling out the paperwork, it was like, oh,
It's gone.
first round money's
It's
gone,
gone.
right?
Yep.
So I have a lot of black businesses get that. It wasn't the red tape that you have with the bigger banks. So again, I think that's really critically important, having someone, that's why I stayed in commercial banking. You said 30 years,
Yeah.
for me it's been 37,
Yeah.
on 38.
All right.
But
You're just saying you're older than me, that's all.
that's all
you're
I'm saying.
saying.
That's all I'm saying, man.
That's all right.
You can tell by the hair, right? You still have some. But yeah, so it's just critically important that that we have representatives throughout all the different professions, whether it's accounting, banking, attorney, whatever. I think it's critically important. So.
And I agree, and I'll say as a council member, I'll add a little bit onto that is representation matters. And so it's not just in the private business, but also in government. And that's why it's important when we vote. We vote for folks who kind of understand our stories. Not all black people are going to think the same way, going to act the same way, going to actually pass legislation exactly what all black people like or want. But most of us come from a space where we can understand what's going down. And so I'm honored to serve 5 Points. And so we have, from my first day, I've been in office for 20 months. From the first day I got in there, we began sitting down with the Department of Economic Development and Opportunity and looking at the slice of the pie, how much are they giving back to the Welton Street Corridor specifically as far as grants, dollars, support for our businesses. And I think 2 months in, I was able to walk with Department of Economic Development and Opportunity and provide business improvement opportunity grants and have them invest an additional $1 million into businesses. I couldn't just get it just for 5 Points, but what I did is exactly what you just shared, Malcolm. Once I did the meetings with them, convinced them that that loan from Dito was necessary, I then brought together community members from 5 Points, and we together worked on filling out the grants. So we had, it was open to the entire city. Out of the $1 million that was sent out, and these were for businesses impacted by COVID. That was the premise of the grant funding. We received, I think, 620,000 of the $1 million that just in 5 Points. And 5 Points, greater 5 Points, not just the Welton Street Corridor, but the entire city was able to apply for these funds. We were outsized in our impact, and it was because we were deliberate. We held 3 community meetings on this. We had folks from the department sitting there talking through what the grants meant. Right. So representation matters. If I wasn't there and I wasn't focused on making sure 5 Points got some of those dollars, it would have gone out to the city, and folks who were connected, folks who knew about how to apply for these, what they call bio grants, they would have tore that up, it would have been gone, and 5 Points would have got their 1/16th like they normally get. Any of the businesses, whether it's a white-owned business, black-owned business, it wouldn't have mattered. We would have gotten less. We got more than some of the richer parts of Denver because we had a strategic focus. And I would say my team, Darius, leads my work within 5 Points. We were very focused on making sure that happened. And that was about 3 months in. I was very early in as a city council member. And now we're working on some other larger grants. I think we just rolled out $250,000 specifically just for 5 Points again for other grants for businesses with a 5% admin cap. You
Right.
can't use more than 5% of any of those grants on administrative stuff. You have to spend 95% of that on the businesses and/or on jazz artists or performers along the Walton Street corridor or within 5 points. That's a requirement in the specific arts and venues grant that we were able to roll out. Nothing like that has happened before. So
Right.
representation matters, having folks who understand and who are willing to fight and target, and who has the skill set to say, hey, we want to move and elevate our communities up.
I'll tackle that just a little bit. I mean, I think that's extremely important, right? I mean, you remember the Jim Crow era, right? I mean, some of us just read about it, but, you know, I was just at the tail end where I actually saw just a little bit of it, right? So my elementary school wasn't integrated until I was in first grade, right? So we went to the all-white school. We got to the all-white school with no whites there because they left, right? And so from this point on, they've been at the, you know, at the private schools down there. Private schools are really big in this part of the country, right? But I think the Jim Crow era, you know, we didn't have access to city council. We didn't have access, you know, it's like, okay, you know, give an example of graduating from college with a 3.3 GPA. No, I don't think you can get that job. So having access gives you that ability to then represent your folks. And so it's critically important. I mentioned earlier in the commentary that, you know, some of the younger, you know, members of our community, I think, don't know how important it is to work hard to get that access. Because, you know, today you can get it with Jim Crow. It's like, oh, you can't come in here, right? You know, there was the laundromat that my mom used to visit early. I was, like I said, maybe 5, 6 years old. And there was actually a section that said colored and white, right? So the section that we had to go in was, you know, in the back, right? So I remember that. It's ingrained in
I'm
my
just
head.
saying, God bless me to make me be born when I was, because I would be dead. I just can't, I can't see. I can see how I'd be one of those folks saying, no,
Yeah.
water's good over here too.
Yeah.
And I start drinking and then somebody act a fool.
They would.
So
They would.
I'm glad I was born when I was, and I'm able to make the impact where I'm at. I'm curious, we have quite a few folks in the room. What questions do you have, or what thoughts you want to add to this discussion? It doesn't have to be specific to what any of the points I asked, but if you want to elevate anything dealing with financial literacy, questions that you have folks here that can maybe answer some of those questions. So 1 question, 2 questions. What thoughts do folks have on financial literacy? And if you're going to talk, we're going to bring you over a little bit so we can see you. So I see you creeping. You coming?
Yeah,
All right, come
definitely-
over here
I
to my
definitely
right.
stepped into the camera.
Now come to my right, everybody, where Mark is at. Say your name. You ain't gotta give any more information, just your name, and then ask the question.
Well, as a man of the community, my name is Quentin Hall. I actually live just about 4 miles down the way, so I actually was blessed to have a friend bring me in here and, you know, start bringing me around the neighborhoods that are actually black owned, have black owners, black businesses. Now, from what I've heard from already, what I've been for, you know, in here for these last 30, 40 minutes hearing you gentlemen speak is the power that we have in this room, specifically with Colorado in general, is we make up about 9–10% of this community. So that means we have 9 to 10% of the power that needs to be invested and moved. Now, my question to you gentlemen is, I understand that Welton is our main district that we operate out of. We have hold there, we have strength there. But how do we branch out from those neighborhoods and reach other communities to have that excitement back and just being like, you know what, when I walk down the street and I see another gentleman who looks like me, maybe I should high five or maybe I should say hi versus the anxiety and fear. Because when you hear inclusion to people that are in the community, it sounds like exclusion. Because when you get to a certain tier level, people think, I don't necessarily fit in with that crowd. I could never see myself in that light. So then when you try to provide that light, it's not necessarily the angry outreach or the, oh, I don't hear what he's saying, it's fear. It's the anxiety of the lack of knowledge, the ignorance. Because as someone goes, I could see you walking down the street and go, man, he has a great suit on, but I would never know how much you contribute to this community, how much you are invested, more than just being a banker. You're invested in the people, society, and the people that walk around. And then we have a chairman and a councilman who's right here that goes, I am fighting for that 5–6% of that money that needs to be swung our way, that will always be our way. It won't even need to be swung, it'll be magnetized, meaning our community is together. And then we have a gentleman who went from the place of, I wrote a book, I've reached out to the community, I'm making sure that the next generation will not have that fear and anxiety. I'm instilling early that there is financial literacy that can be obtained, and it doesn't have to be something that we have to be afraid of, but for most people it's the lack of understanding. Like myself, I went to college, had a 3.7 GPA, thought, you know, hey, I could do whatever. final semester, didn't graduate.
Okay.
So what does that really say? It's like you put in the work, but you didn't finish.
Yeah.
Then I go, you know what? 5 years later, what do? I move here. Now I've been in the city and area of Denver, Colorado for the last 9 years. I just became a business owner this year.
Right.
So it's nothing but ideas and success in my own right. But I go, what do I use and how can I utilize my knowledge to have these outreach to know I can actually go to this gentleman's office and set up something and reach out and speak to people.
That's right.
I can actually speak to this gentleman who has 3 children's books that's creating literacy for my daughter who's about to be 2 years old, who I would love to have that book and know and understand. And then not just myself,
Right.
but then how do I get this book in other people's hands? And then I go, I know a gentleman that's in banking.
Yeah.
My brother wants to start a business. How do I get him in touch with this gentleman that can not only get him in one door, he can get him into every black business that's around.
Yeah.
Because then I think about it, we can all name 10 brands or businesses that we can just right off the top, clothing, McDonald's,
Right.
down to the smallest iota, even a shoelace company, we could
Right.
probably name one.
Right.
That's right.
But each of us could come up with an idea to have our own branch or business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have million creatives in the area, and then we have great business owners that have allowed these men to
Right.
come in and have these moments.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
How do we include the people that are outside
I'm
walking
saying
around?
you just preach it.
Okay.
You just preach it.
I'm glad somebody else
Well,
said
I got a good
just
follow-up.
preach it.
right here. I'm like, we the people.
Yeah, I got a
Alright.
good follow-up for that.
Well,
right?
let me get some people in here.
Yeah.
Because you just threw it down. So lift it up.
Yeah, I'll
Lift
lift
it
it
up.
up. I'll lift it up. So what we're doing at the chamber, right? We realize that this is super important again because we're fighting against this, anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion wave, right? So what we're doing is, you're probably aware of Carla Ladd and her little black
Yeah,
book,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so we're having a conversation. We being my president at the chamber and myself with the U.S. Black Chamber, right? The U.S. Black Chamber sent us some communication. We're a member of it. They sent us some communication that's like, hey, they had don't shop at Target. Get this out to your members. But they also had this website where you could go to, and there's an app that you can go to and find out where black businesses are located in your area, right?
Yeah.
So it's just okay. I gotta find out. Okay, I looked on that app. It's on 2 black businesses in Denver that are actually on that app, right? So. I've got to find out, okay, how can we get more black businesses on the app? How can we create our own app maybe, with using Carla Ladd?
I can tell you what, Parker McMullen also has an app as well, and she had an interactive app.
Yeah.
And so I'll make sure she connects with you.
Please.
So that's what I'm saying, when we hear stuff, when we bring it out
Yeah.
in the open, I mean, she's got an interactive app where black folks going into not only black-owned business, but
Yeah.
black celebrating business, welcoming businesses,
Yeah.
and rating them,
Right.
like Yelp, and telling folks, yeah, this is a safe
legitimate
place, a place that
places
celebrates
to do
us to go.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure Parker
Please
connects
do.
with you.
Yeah, let's do that because I think that's critically important because we all know black businesses that are they're busy working, right? They're out in Parker, they're out up north, they're out, I don't know if you guys know, I live out in East Centennial. I'm not part of the district, unfortunately, but
Come on, you
I
can
work
still
in the
move
district. I work here. But in East Centennial, there's a place called Q's Cuisine. It's Q's, okay. But again, it's word of mouth. We gotta do better than
But we have the little black
Was there
business
yesterday.
book.
Yeah, that's called Ladd's
We
book.
got
Oh,
it
that's
on our
hers.
office.
Okay.
That's called Ladd's book, the
Okay.
black book, the little black
But the
book.
digital side would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be
That's what we need to do.
that
Yeah.
would be amazing.
So that's to your point, 'cause
Yeah,
these
to
businesses
get it out,
they
yeah.
we gotta rate them, we gotta put them out there, we gotta let black people know where they are, right?
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
gotta start circulating those.
We gotta
dollars.
see you doing that work,
Yeah.
so I'll make sure I can.
Digitize them, like making that digital would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get that in here.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
as it, like he's talking about with people walking on the street, like, and you're, engaging
Right.
and not being afraid. Like you see somebody in a business suit and be like, hey, it could just be, and I think people they're so closed off here because like my friend told me the other day, she was like, I just love you talk to anybody. I saw somebody with a knee brace on because I had ACL surgery. And I think people are afraid to just have conversations with other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So just saying like, hey, how are you? Have you heard about, we can
Yeah.
run around and talk about Kanye West, Donald Trump, we can talk about, how many businesses are closing, but hey, brother, sister, have you heard about this new app? It's
Correct.
Yeah,
perfect
yeah.
for business owners, even if you don't have a business, support.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's
So I
right.
think that too, we got to get out of our comfort zone because Denver is unique. Me coming from California, and that's probably why I am the way that I am,
Uh-huh.
because it's a different dynamic, and I know
Yeah.
every state is different, But I do feel like Denver is unique, and in not a bad way, but I just think we could be better at engaging with each other.
We're smart,
And
like
not-
you said, but
yeah.
we're not.
But we can be powerful too.
We're concentrated.
Yeah,
You
we
go
can
to
be powerful
Houston,
even
go to
with that
Atlanta.
smallness. Yeah.
Atlanta's got their clicks, right?
Yeah. But that's what I think makes it
Birmingham has
unique.
its cliques,
Yeah.
right? Here we-
Just because
I
it's
think
small.
so I think it's not so much the size, and I think what,
Yeah.
Brother Prince demonstrated here, and as he communicates, you've got to take the opportunities where they're at, and as this brother shared, we need to make sure we're elevating those opportunities for others. So he's got a daughter, you're writing books on this, so you're gonna be able to spread the word that
Amen.
we've got clear, focused, intentional approach to make sure youth are becoming educated on financial literacy. When I maybe hear your voice on any of the stuff that brother shared or anything else you want to add.
Yes, the first thing is you have to be intentional
Yeah.
when you look for doing business with it. When you spoke about the Jim Crow era, you look at, right after the slavery in the early 1900s,
Reconstruction.
you saw during Reconstruction time,
Yeah.
you saw places like Tulsa, Oklahoma, you saw places like Rosewood,
Yeah.
Wilmington, that was these concentrated areas where blacks were doing so well because it was segregated. We had to rely on each other.
Yeah.
Now that we have desegregated, now we take our business everywhere else.
Mhm.
And it's hard for us to come back. So it's something as simple as buying soap. Is this one lady named Ms. Branches at the VA that every time I go in there, I buy her soap, right? Because I don't want to buy soap anyway, so I have to be intentional because I have so much soap around us.
Yeah.
And here's the other side of the coin that nobody mentioned.
Okay.
Black business got to step this service up too.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Amen
All
to
right.
that.
Okay.
So we can't be out here
Yeah.
saying support me, come to me,
Right.
whatever. You
Right.
come to me and say, Prince, you got any books?
Oh man, I have some next week. Just come back.
No.
And
No,
then,
he-
or let's say if he does support me,
Yeah.
I don't even show up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. On time.
That's the
Or,
point.
oh man, I ain't got it. Oh man, dude, you told me I'm trying to support you.
Yeah.
We have a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
Also with that, other part of it too, on my for-profit side of the house, like I was saying, I started managing $500 and grew to over millions of dollars that I manage today, right?
Yeah.
But with that being said, people say, well, Prince, why you don't go out and I focus on being good at what I do,
That's right.
right? I want, like he has my latest coloring book, right? I focus on things like that,
Yeah.
sit in my basement to make sure it's good, this guy is good at what he does.
Yeah.
A lot of us, we just want your money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta, can you deliver? There are
Correct.
people I try to go out and support. I'm not saying it's not all of us, but our product has to be, I don't look at it and say,
Be that top
hey,
quartile,
I
man,
just,
you know?
I just did something. Like you said earlier, I want to be in the top 20%.
Right.
I ain't to be the best at what I do.
That's right.
So hey, don't support me because I'm black.
Yeah.
Support me because I'm good at what I do.
We'll support you because you're black and.
And I want to be the icing on the cake to say, and
Right.
he's
Yeah.
the guy's
And
good
he's
at what
killing
he does.
it.
Yeah.
What I mean,
And he
to
does
piggyback on that, not to interrupt, is
You're going to preach
How do we-
again now.
not to preach, not to preach. I'm
Okay.
enjoying what
You
you're
are.
saying, but
Yeah.
how do we get more of just you gentlemen just then in this room and out in the community and keep it more of a community reunion versus then we have that great celebration for Juneteenth coming. Everyone knows about that, but how do we do something in March? How do we do something in April? And then there's moments where we have business going on year round, but when are we celebrating the people that have had success for that business? The person who did pull something in this area, because a lot of people don't know. So similar to how you're gonna go visit one of these black businesses like we did tonight that has great food, okay, they might have that one mistake. You're gonna go tell 10 people about that one mistake. But that one time where they had a full celebration,
wait.
you told one person.
I want to put a comma on it.
Okay.
That goes back down to financial literacy.
Yeah.
I used to be that person. I used to walk into a business and say, "Oh, man, look, they're slow, they're late, half the stuff on the menu ain't here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going down the street to Applebee's, Chili's, they always on time, everything is good. It was my lack of understanding of how a business really works.
That's right.
This business has to maintain an inventory.
Yeah.
Oh, the price is high. Hey, this guy's only ordering 100 at a time. Applebee's is a franchise, they're ordering millions at a time, so they get a
Right.
lower price point. Also, on top of that, too, you take me today. Yes, you can't compare me to Warren Buffett, who's been around for 200 years.
That's right. That's right.
Who,
So-
and you're talking about,
That's right.
You're talking about Warren Buffett, who was Howard Buffett,
Yeah. Yeah.
who was
yeah.
Ernest Buffett, his dad, his granddad,
Yeah.
right? Nobody's talking about those people. We're
Correct.
talking, his dad was a congressman
Yeah.
and a stockbroker.
Correct.
His granddad Ernest owned the grocery store in Omaha where him and Charlie Munger ended up working and meeting each other.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we were living in Jim Crow, right? I mean,
Exactly.
we were in Jim
So,
Crow.
so you got to
generational
understand.
wealth.
You got to understand your history. And you got to understand the generational gaps
and then I want to say that
for our communities.
you have to be patient to
gotta
understand.
be patient.
Hey, I just started. I'm a baby.
Yeah.
I'm only 1, 2, 3 years old. Somebody else is 20 years old.
Right.
They've got it down to a science. If you and I came together and created a soda, we're not going to rob a Coca-Cola today.
No.
Tomorrow, we might miss some orders. Our website might not be as clean and crisp. Our inventory may be low, or we may not be able to service. And people are like, "Oh, forget this guy. I'm going to Coca-Cola," right? And that understanding, it comes back to financial literacy, understanding
That's
how
right.
business works. That
That's right.
hey, if I
I'm
support
gonna
him
close
long
these out
enough,
now.
Yes,
We're getting-
it's
we're
gonna
getting-
generate.
we're getting
he's going to
to the end.
generate.
Yes.
Yes.
So, but
Yes.
it comes back. Understand, I didn't understand. I'm looking at you, comparing you to him, now understanding, hey, you're just started. You only got one deep fryer.
Right.
You back there frying as many wings as you can. Mine's gotta take
You're
us
working
so long.
hard. You're working
And he's
hard.
running out of wings. He ran out of flour. Because he's learning his inventory. He's learning what works. And hey, I made too many last week. I ordered too many. I have to be more patient with our people. But also tell people at the same time, we got to be
Step
focused.
up.
We got to step up our stuff.
We got to be
Yeah,
registered and ask people to be patient with you as well.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put a button on that because we're getting close to the bottom of the hour. So what I'm gonna ask is, we're closing out now, Brother Marcus. I haven't heard from you all night, so I'm gonna ask
Sneak out of
as
that
we do the final question to y'all to elevate before we close out this session of Barbershop Talks. Marcus, as respected Black business owner in the community, for a Black business that has been respected for 30, 40 years. What do you want to add to this discussion before we do a wrap up with the folks here on the panel?
I think we all would agree we've been kind of culturally in the space of survival modes over time. And I think when you're in a space of survival mode, you kind of tread the water. I think you gotta, along that way of recovery, along that way to the lighthouse of sort, I think you gotta celebrate the small things.
That's right.
And so I think, like, in this room represents small and major movement in our community. And so being probably an addict of optimism, like, yo, there's so much to celebrate in this space and
Yes.
to take outside this space, spread the word about this conversation that was had. And I think that's how we push the needle forward. I think that we have to stay celebratory. We got a councilman like Brother Darrell that's going to represent for the people.
My best, brother.
And he's thorough. Like, I've been watching him. I know Darrell, Councilman Watkins. And so he's true. He's tried and true. So we celebrate that. We support that. He has something, I'm there. My brother, I just met him. Author, publishing books, like, we celebrate those things. We spread the word on those things.
And one more thing, when you said something.
If Councilman Watson did not invite me, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So if you don't have it, create something and invite people.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm having, can you come to this? People say, hey, it's not like I'm at home declining everybody, right? If it's not
You
there,
gotta be invited.
I'm not going to be
You
there.
gotta be invited.
I mean, I'm not going to pick up just walk down the street, hey guys, by the way. But if you create it, you say you build it, people will come. If you, hey, I'm having this every weekend, once a month, twice a week, hey, we're having this on April 2nd. Now you have something. You know what?
Yeah.
Let's turn this into an annual thing. Let's turn this into a semi. Let's keep it going. So if you don't see it,
Be the change you want to see.
There you go.
Y'all-
Who said that?
if I didn't think that way, I won't be holding the books you have today.
That's right. So I want y'all to close us out. Give a blessing from you. What's something that you feel you've been blessed with that you want to share back to folks as your closing thought? What's a blessing? A way of someone brought you into this discussion, a way someone has put value into you and your life. What's something that you can think of as your closing statement before we break this down tonight? Let's start with Brother Malcolm. What's a blessing in your life that you received that you want to maybe share, give back succinctly to the people.
Yeah, you know, it probably started for me early, right? Just planting that seed, right? I mean, we talked about, you know, community and how, you know, close-knit community was. Unfortunately, we had Jim Crow, but we, out of that came a close-knit community. So I had a high school math teacher, right? Taught me math 3 years, right? So algebra 1, algebra 2, trigonometry, and he taught my mom, right? And so he was like, son, yeah, you know, if he saw me doing something in the class, no, come on to the front seat here, sit down. So that's where I started to like hone my skill and want to be, you know, in the world of finance, right? And so he stayed in touch and he was like, okay, how you doing in college, you know, hanging in there. And so he planted that seed, I think, that just kept me, you know, going in terms of when, you know, I didn't go to HBCU, right? I went to a big school, dropped out of college, you know. So I think just getting that toughness, you know, my mom, my parents, same thing. And so that just kind of insulated me as I navigated through a world of where I was usually the only one in the room that looked like me. You know, I was like, okay, that's all right, I'm good. You know, I'm not gonna wear this on my, you see it, I don't have to wear it on my sleeve. You know who I am. And I just, you know, that was my way of insulating myself. So I think, you know, a lot of times we let, you know, that dirt on our shoulders get to us, and we stop. The man's got his foot on my back. I can't keep going. Keep going, because I always say, you know, you heard me say this at John Bailey's, you know, functions, man. My granddad was born in 1901. You know, my worst day was probably his best day, right? Because I think of things he couldn't do and things that I can do, right? So that keeps me going, keeps me motivated, man. That's just.
Well, you are blessed, my brother Malcolm. We got you. We got your back. We will be here if you need us. Pick up the phone, text us, but we're here for you. Prince, blessing you want to put into the world from what was given to you.
I was blessed to have great parents. My mom and dad were both school teachers, and my mom went off to start her own daycare in the 70s, and she sold it in the 90s, and it's still there in 2025. She sold it to my godmother. My dad was retired. Now he's a retired school teacher and retired military as well. So coming up in that household and seeing my dad, you know, be in the community through his church, stuff like that. You know, I didn't realize how rare that was as a black man growing up. So I tried to do that to the community as well. So instead of just sitting at my desk, sitting in my office, and just worry about myself, hey, we have a nonprofit arm where we go out and do things like this, help out as many kids as possible as well. And I was wondering if I could get a haircut before I leave.
Well, I ain't gonna be cutting your hair. You gotta talk to him.
Now, we did talk about that.
You got a whole lot of people.
We just talked about that.
I'm just saying, I'm not cutting your hair, but other people might, but I want to say, don't let Darius cut you. I'm just saying that you are blessed, and for the short time that I have known you, you blessed my life. I mean, listening to you, I think it was a phone call, you called me and I talked to you, and you were like telling me all of this stuff that you're doing, and I'm like wilding out in my brain of just how amazing the work that you're doing and how it's going to impact our children's lives and then their children's lives. So know that we've got you, know we've got your back. We'll always be looking around corners to make sure that you're covered, and so I so appreciate you being here tonight. And I'll share a little bit of my blessing. Similar to Malcolm and Prince, my mom. I'm a mama's boy, I'm the youngest of 7, and she raised all of us from the projects in the Virgin Islands. We didn't have much food, we didn't have much material wealth, but what we had was love, and we had a strong black woman who was not going to allow anyone to hold her down. She went back to school to get her GED while we were at home, little kids at night. She worked all day long as a nurse in nursing field, got her GED, went back and got certifications, did all of that with no support from really from anyone. And it's because of you, Ma, because I know you're going to be watching this, is why I am who I am and where I'm at, because if you can punch up from all the places where folks are holding down not just your hands, but your legs and your brain and your heart, you pushed up to make sure all 7 of us survived. I got no excuses. So, Tama, I love you. You are my blessing, and it's because of you I strive to bless people wherever I go and every day. And so, this is March Barbershop Talks here at House of Hair. DJ Skrill, take us out. Folks, thank you so much for watching. Thank you all so much for being here. Give yourself a round of applause. We out. On time.